Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and I am also a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to go over something that a lot of you guys have asked for in many different ways, and I wanted to compile it in a video for y'all. It is about the things that avoidants immediately notice about yourself that may or may not deter them from a relationship. It depends, right? I'm not saying this means that they're going to leave right away, but avoidant individuals have a more specific list of what they're looking for because it helps them to avoid commitment. And often they notice these particular things. Some of these are not even bad, but it might be something that can help you to understand what they focus on in relationships comparison to what you might focus on, just to help yourself understand them more. This will work for both fearful and dismissive, but it's much more strongly leaning towards dismissive avoidance or fearful that leans very dismissive, okay? And the very first one, I think a lot of y'all already know this, but if I didn't put this in, I feel like that would just not make any sense because this is one of the most common ones, okay? They actually notice any sort of self-criticism or some sort of obvious or prominent insecurity, okay? And what does that look like? It might be that needing of constant validation, right? You might need particular validation. You might be searching for validation by, I don't know, social media or by them or your friends, or maybe you feel uncomfortable with making decisions. So you always ask somebody before you make a decision. They will notice that. And sometimes it doesn't mean that it's off-putting or a bad thing, but usually avoidant individuals do hope that this gets repaired or reduced as the relationship moves forward. Okay. The next one, we're still on the topic of obvious insecurity, but just another example is if you put yourself down repeatedly, like in conversations or in passing, or when you look at yourself in the mirror, you might say something. Or maybe you talk about, like, I don't know, why an ex-girlfriend left you, and you might say something like, yeah, I was too nice. Or I know I'm not an attractive type of guy, so I get why she left me, right? And so you're already setting yourself up for somebody to perceive you as, especially avoidance, to perceive you as somebody who maybe is very self-critical. And so they might feel like, okay, if you're self-critical, what happens when I tell you that I want you to change something? Are you going to just be beating yourself up over it? Are you going to take charge and fix it? Are you going to take it too seriously when I'm not trying to hurt you? Are you going to take my need for space as too personal? And so that's why they pay attention to this one a lot. Does that make sense? Like, they don't want it to be something where it creates a barrier in the relationship, which is why they pay more attention to it, okay? The next one is any sort of aggressive behavior. And when I mean aggressive, I don't mean y'all are actually like physically being aggressive. I mean emotionally aggressive, right? So it might be, another word might be overbearing. A lot of avoidants say that word. I know it's not a very nice word and I don't mean it like that, but I just wanted to use that word for clarity. Placeholder word. I'm sure I could find a better one. Basically coming on too strong or dominating in the conversation. That is an example. The next one could even be like continuously interrupting or wanting to talk about your feelings or yourself or what happened in your day, and you're having a really hard time possibly listening to your partner. And maybe when you're emotional, it's hard for you to hear another person's input, or you get really sad when somebody tells you something you don't want to hear. And so they may perceive that as like more aggressive, overbearing, or maybe you're like pressuring them to change very quickly or wanting them to do X, Y, and Z. Otherwise, it's not enough for you. And they might, that's not a bad thing necessarily, but they might think it as something that possibly they just can't give you at this time, right? That might be something that they're not really prepared for. And so for that reason, it may deter them from wanting a committed relationship with you, okay? The next one is poor listening skills. I think a lot of people don't like this one. And I think a lot of people notice this, but avoidant individuals, I'll tell you why they don't like it as soon as we talk about examples. The first one is if in the example, it might be that you're not necessarily interested in the conversation. You're interested in trying to make a good impression, right? Maybe you're not really listening to them. You're just trying to see how to conform to them or make them happy. Or maybe you're distracted on your phone. That might be another one. Or you might try and act a certain way, very detached, or what's that new word? Black cat energy, y'all. I'm so bad at this. What is that called? Like, what is that? That new thing where it's like you're trying to be like, and there might be validity to it. I'm not judging, but I'm just saying like that thing where you're like trying to be like more pulled away and detached. Avoidants don't like that. Maybe some do, none that I don't know many that do, but I could be wrong. But like where you're trying to act like you're not totally invested in what they're saying. And so you're like trying to act like it bounces right off you. Does that make sense? And the reason why avoidants don't like this is because if you're not genuine about who you are, it makes them feel like, okay, you're going to flip the switch when we get closer, right? If you're pretending to be somebody you're not, as soon as I commit to you, you're going to flip. You're going to flip the switch. That's why they don't like this one, right? Now, if you're genuinely not good at listening, they might call you out on it, but they also might feel like you're not actually interested in learning about them. You're more interested in talking about yourself, right? And they may perceive that as needy, or they may perceive that as somebody who only wants their own way. And I'm not saying you guys are doing this, by the way. I'm just saying the perception of it. They might perceive it as you only want to get romance out of this relationship. You're not learning. You're not trying to actually invest in two different people, two people who are going to learn to connect, right? If you're only acting interested because you want them to like you, they might feel like that's inauthentic, right? They might feel like you're not actually trying to hear who they truly are. And that might make them feel like, okay, what's the point in committing if you don't actually want me, right? If you don't actually appreciate who I really am. You're just trying to get something out of me. That's what they feel like. I'm not saying you're doing that, but they might feel like that. The next one is lack of authenticity in general, not just in conversations, okay? This could be that they may perceive you as like very performative, okay? Maybe you're overly trying to impress them, but you could be doing that with like your boss, with your friends. Maybe you always pay attention to very specific trends in a way where it makes you feel really bad if you don't fit in. I'm not saying if you like focus on trends, that's a bad thing. That's good if that's your hobby. But it's more that you feel like if you don't do these things, you'll be very rejected, right? You don't feel like who you are truly is enough. Just like we were mentioning, maybe you're trying to mirror the person you're talking to, your partner. You're copying their interests simply because you think they won't like you. Maybe you try and mirror people on like Instagram or like your friends, and you change who you are with different crowds. Everyone does that a little bit, or most people do. But if you're strongly struggling with being authentic, again, it's a self-esteem issue, and avoidant individuals feel like, okay, who are you underneath that? Are you going to flip the switch and start demanding or changing things, or I don't know, insulting me or whatever, trying to change me, whatever it is. And so their fears show up when you're behaving like this. And I'm not saying that you are actually doing that. A lot of these, it's not a bad thing. Like, it's really not your fault, but they may perceive it that way. And so any of these things, if you feel like your partner is being too negative or too specific, you don't have to change yourself for them, but maybe have a conversation. Hey, I know that I'm sometimes insecure around crowds and I try to fit in, or I'm performative. It doesn't mean that, I'm always like that, or it doesn't mean that I'm hiding my true self. I just wanted to let you know, right? Or I know I come across a little bit overbearing or aggressive, and I apologize for that. I'm working on it, but I don't want you to think that I'm just pushing you to do something you don't want to do, right? If you add those little disclaimers, you can still do this. You are now managing their fears, because the reason they don't like this, or they're noticing it right away, is simply because of their fears. It's not you, okay? The next one is pushing the relationship too forward too fast, right? If you're pushing for that deep emotional connection, commitment, or like serious talks right away, it can make them feel like that's all you want from them. You don't want that natural progression. You don't really want to learn who they are. You're just trying to push it out of them, okay? The last one is kind of similar to that one. It's like maybe you're demanding specific attention. To be honest, when I'm thinking about this, the main thing I notice with patients who mention this is it's like particularly in like a group setting. I think a lot of avoidants have told this to me in session. Like in a group setting, if you're, let's say you guys are together, and let's say it's, I don't know, the avoidant male, let's say it's anxious, preoccupied female. Let's say it's his buddy's birthday. So the attention's not even on y'all as a couple, right? And he's putting a lot more focus on his buddy simply because he wants it to be his special day for his friend. But then let's say the anxious, preoccupied gets really upset that, I don't know, he's not giving her attention, her boyfriend, right? And she feels like, oh, that means he doesn't love me. This is not a moment where he's purposely doing it. He's just simply doing it specifically because they're in a group setting, and he's angling himself for his friend, right? So it's not It's not that he doesn't love you. That's what I mean. I'm not saying that you can't ask for attention, because avoidant individuals are very withdrawn with their attention. So a lot of you guys want attention. That's a good thing, and that's normal. But what I meant particularly is like in a group setting. So let's say you guys are, another example could be a wedding, right? And during that time, maybe you get really upset, or this person gets upset because they're like, this is supposed to be like a romantic setting. Why are you not doing X, Y, and Z? When they're just like, okay, I'm just showing up for your friend or my friend or whatever. And so it's usually a group dynamic, if that makes sense. So these are just some examples. I know it's a little bit of a more heavy topic. I know it's a little bit on the negative side. I try to make more positive videos, but a lot of you guys asked for this one. So I did that for you. I hope this video is helpful. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.